Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today we're going to be recapping day one of the mid-offs, a Minecraft Speedrun tournament between a bunch of players who admittedly are kinda mid, and they're being coached by people who aren't mid. They're better than on average. Everyone but Minitech is better. Regardless, day one of the tournament did take place. It was entirely streamed on the Tubbo Twitch account. I think Curry also streamed the entire thing from his POV. It was just a bunch of fun, a bunch of successful, honestly, footage that we saw. I think it was a great event thus far, and yeah, today we'll be talking about all the matches that took place, recapping who won, what times everyone got, etc., and also, most importantly, out of these matches, which 4 players were eliminated day one from the tournament. These are the 16 total players. There are 8 coaches. Each coach has 2 players to, have as their responsibility for this tournament, I guess. And yeah, let's go in chronological order, I guess, from the match that played out first to the matches that played out last. Starting with Sneagsnag versus BadBoyHalo. And I will say now, spoiler warning, if you haven't watched the event and you don't want to know who wins every match, this is your last chance to click away. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. First, Sneak versus BadBoyHalo. A match that people expected to be pretty heavily in Sneak's favor because during this, prior to the tournament, Sneak already had a PB of, I think, 20 minutes or something like 21 minutes, maybe something like that, around that time in RSG, which is pretty impressive. And Bad had not really completed a speedrun before. I think the day before the tournament, his PB was sub 1 hour. So it wasn't looking favorable for Bad. However, the match ended up playing out pretty interestingly. What ended up happening was, of course, Sneak was ahead in terms of pace for the early game, blinding at 10:49. However, I don't remember specifically what it was. I do recall Sneak was kind of struggling with, or I think he when he blinded his portal, he blinded in the nether at Y80, which is why he was on the surface, so he was having a little bit of trouble there. Whereas, Bad with the Feinberg, coach in his ear, was able to blind pretty successfully here, so that made up for his roughly 2 minutes, disadvantage, you could say. And then it came down to the end, and Bad ended up dying, and then Sneak ended up killing the dragon briefly after, and that was the match. Again, also, if you want to see the clips of all of this on stream, etc., I would recommend watching this Tubbo VOD, which will probably be on his YouTube side of things as well, in case you don't use Twitch or Twitter or whatever. There are probably going to be clips on this channel because they posted clips on Twitter as well. So yeah, match 1, Sneagsnag beats BadBoyHalo with a surprisingly close match. That was pretty interesting. It was pretty incredible. Then afterwards was my match with JohnA. And me versus JohnA, realistically speaking, was the most hype match for the day because this is probably the most competitive match of the day. JohnA is it's between JohnA and Jumper for most improved player, going from no experience to sub 15 in practice, or 15 minutes PBs in practice roughly. And I also have prior experience in doing speedrunning, and within this roster, I'm just one of the better Minecraft players, on average. And I also had been showing decent improvement as well. So it was looking pretty interesting. However, it was favored in JohnA's direction because my PB, literally only the day before the tournament, was sub 20. I think 18 minutes, and then JohnA's, like mentioned, is sub 15. So his fastest time is a few minutes faster than mine. Now, when we go to the actual match, things shaped up very, very differently than expected. The Nether Enter was pretty much exactly the same, which is insane. Then Bastion Enter, I was faster. The Bastion Split was a bit faster for JohnA. He went for Strays in the Fortress, which was why he got the Into Fire achievement a bit sooner. But I had found the spawner. I don't even know if JohnA found the spawner at all. Which meant that during Blaze Killing, I was able to set some stuff up a bit more, etc. Also, another reason why my Bastion split was slower was because I actually was able to commit to trades a little bit more because I think I had more piglins in my hole, which meant that I was able to get out of the Bastion with 20 or 21 obsidian, whereas JohnA left early with less than 20 obsidian, which meant that he had to home portal, which means home portal is the portal you use to go to the nether with initially, is the one you use to go out. Because it was relatively close, it's a viable strategy. But that's where I made up some time. Him having to travel back and forth in the nether meant that I had a bit more time to find the stronghold. I made up like almost a minute from this slight delay here to here, almost a minute. However, tragedy struck when the stronghold was entered. My blind was good, right? My blind in the stronghold was good. I landed in the starter room of the stronghold, which is the intended way it works with blinding. However, when I went for preemptive scanning, which is when you open your F3 menu and there's the pie chart where if you click open and close it, it gives you like updated information. We didn't really land on a good spike, which means like a good amount of information on one of the charts. We didn't really land on a good spike, so when I committed to routes and when Parker was trying to give some advice for where to go, we just unfortunately didn't really land on the right room. JohnA, however, apparently blinded correctly, but he had a slight offset in his blind, which meant he landed in the room next to the starter room. But because of that, he had way clearer vision for like doing preemptive, and that meant he just found it immediately, which is why from finding the stronghold, which is just when your portal lands in the overworld in the stronghold, to entering the end was 15 seconds, which is insane. And then after that, he does a clean one cycle, and the game finishes sub 16. It is what it is, sometimes, or at least more so, the stronghold is the most RNG part of speedrunning, and I just got unlucky. Or more so, JohnA got lucky, and I also got unlucky. It is what it is. It happens. But JohnA beats me, which meant that I had to play another match, which also, I should mention, as you can see here, the first... So yeah, I already mentioned, like, 4 people got eliminated. If you win on this day 1, or if you won on this day 1, that would be your only match. If you lost, you'd have to play another one. That was a problem, because I had to face BadBoyHalo, you see here. These matches were in the first hour of the tournament. These matches were 6 hours after the tournament started. I was there the entire time, so I was tired when we got to the loser bracket match. But we'll get to that later. Next up, Jojo versus Harry, a match that actually was pretty close, at least in terms of predictions. I don't remember the actual match, but we'll look at that in a bit. The expectations for this was that it was going to be pretty close. Going into this tournament, people knew Jojo had speedrunning experience. Some people weren't really aware that Harry had speedrunning experience, but Harry statistically is a better speedrunner than Jojo, which is why when the tournament actually, or when the game actually started, you just see that Harry is on just a bit of a faster pace compared to Jojo on average throughout this thing. Yes, the Nether Enter is like a second slower, but getting to the Bastion is faster, getting to the Fort is faster, getting, First Rod, Blind, etc., etc. It all stacks up, and that means that eventually Harry does take the win against Jojo with a 19-minute finish. Very nice, very clean. So yeah, that is Harry versus Jojo. Harry won, and then we have the next match, which was supposed to be Ant versus Jumper, but Ant Venom was having issues, so they skipped it for temporarily at least, meaning that Hannah against Wiggy was up next. And this match was kind of up in the air in terms of expectation. Hannah and Wiggy, I think, were some of the least prepared players for this tournament out of the expected Minecraft performers. Of course, Ryan Higa and other Ryan as well, and some of the other players that are on the lower end of the thing were expected to prepare a bit less, but Hannah versus Wiggy was a match between two players who hadn't prepared as much for this tournament as some of the other Minecrafters. So it was kind of a question mark to who would win, but it was favorable in Hannah's position because not only had she practiced a little bit more, she also has a better coach for this type of situation, generally speaking. So when it comes down to the actual match, the players are on decent pace throughout the run, actually both, having a sub 19 strong or like a sub 20 end enter, which is decent. However, both players die within 6 seconds of each other, and tragedy strikes right there. Because as much as, these players enter the end with a sub 19 and a half, I guess, both of them, it takes double that amount of time for the run to actually finish. This one was this is kind of like the first fumble match that we saw. We saw a few more, but this was the first fumble match of the tournament a little bit. And it was kind of fine. Of course, for the players, it's stressful, but like for the audience, it was kind of just like, oh my god, like kind of fun, like a fun way to look at it. And Dragon, Hannah clutches up at the end, killing the dragon, because what ended up happening was anytime the dragon perches, which this happens sometimes in speedrunning, anytime the dragon perches, which is when it flies down to the middle of the end, it has a temporary amount of time that it'll be there, but it is not like always a set amount of time, nor is it consistently the same amount of time. Hannah had like I don't know what it's called, a glitched purge, an unlucky purge, something like that, where she would get like a few axe hits in and they would immediately fly away, which meant that she ended up needing like 10 purges to be able to actually end up killing the dragon. But she did it at the end, so very nice. Next up, because this match was skipped, we go back to it. Ant-Venom versus Jumper, who this one wasn't really expected to be close. Jumper, from the preparations for this tournament, practicing, etc., was just a much favorable player for this tournament. Ant-Venom hadn't practiced as much. Plus, Jumper, mechanically speaking, is a better Minecraft player. So this was heavily in Jumper's favor. And when it came down to the actual match, you did see that. Jumper was on a faster pace. However, Jumper, early on, dies almost immediately, doing a full reset 4 minutes into the run. But it doesn't really matter. The thing is Jumper is just that much better of a player, which, actually, I should mention, a 3-minute Bastion split for this tournament is really good. I didn't even notice that it was that quick, but that's where she makes up a bit of time, and consistently throughout the rest of the run, you see her experience and, her coaches will help her side out here, and she still, despite dying and resetting 4 minutes in, gets a sub 20 finish, which is very good, meaning that, this would be a sub 16 run, theoretically speaking. So yeah, very cool, very nice. W Jumper. Moving on from that match, we now go to AimZ versus Captain Sparkles, a match that I had personally hyped up a good amount because these were two players going into the tournaments that people didn't expect to perform insanely well, right? Both players are more SMP focused or like survival Minecraft, just like more chill focused creators. They are both frequent MCC players, of course, but it was expected, these players would be relatively on par, and with the preparations for this tournament, etc., and the results that were being shown, that was pretty much the case. That was true. We did kind of see them be on par prior to this match taking place. So, when it came down to the actual match, the players were relatively close. Jordan was on a bit of a quicker pace, Amy actually dying or MZ dying, sorry. Both players dying, my bad, in the Bastion, because the Bastion was not favorable for this matchup. For these specific players, the seed wasn't great. The seed being, I think it was I want to say a bridge Bastion, with like a nether fortress literally right next to it, which is great for usual speedruns, but when you have a player base that is a bit less experienced, there are like extra factors you have to consider that completely mess up with your like standard plan, strategy, etc., which is why the players were a bit disorientated, I think, going to this match, and that's why they experienced this seed to be not that great. However, both players die early on. They do come back pretty cleanly and also end up entering the fortress almost at the same amount of time, or almost at the same time, being on very close pace throughout this part of the match. But Jordan did end up dying in the end, unfortunately, and wasn't really able to pull it back. Ended up going for the reset but Amy ended up clutching at a sub 40 finish still, which is nice, and that meant AMZ won the match. Next up, we had Abe versus Drapu, which is not even debatably, but just confirmed the least fair match that was going to happen today. Abe, prior to this tournament, had no speedrunning experience. He did have one of the best coaches you could ask for, but unfortunately for Abe, his bracket and his seeding was really, really unfavorable, because as you can see from right here, this is like U4, V4. Match 4, the loser from match 4 would have to go against match 3, and even if he wins, he would have to go against the winner of match 3, probably, you would expect, which meant that Abe, no matter what, was going up against 3 of the most, solid, consistent players that he could even conceivably go up against for this tournament. And unsurprisingly, when it came down to the actual match, we did see that Drapu took it home. I will say, Abe actually, with the sub 4 enter, not bad. We did play Ruined Portal, which is one of the more favorable ways to enter the Nether for a quicker seed. But yeah, Abe goes for the reset because he ends up dying, etc. It's just, Drapu is just the best player, pretty much, or one of the best players from the tournament. He was on diabolical pace, potentially being able to get a sub 12, sub 13 if his blinding and stronghold, stuff was a bit better. He also did noticeably get one of the slower possible perches, I think, for this tournament, but ended up finishing sub 16. I think, is that the fastest we saw one of these finish? Yes, that is the fastest finish we saw this tournament by 10 seconds, so far at least. So yeah, Drapu takes it over Abe, unsurprisingly, of course, but that means there was one winner's bracket match left. Ryan versus Ryan. Highly anticipated, because nobody had any clue who would win this one. This was genuinely a really fair match. But I'm not sure if it's for the better that it was a fair match, because this one was a little bit sad. I think, so, by the way, for reference, whichever player won would PB. Neither of these players had completed a run before. It wasn't expected for them to do, very well. Speedrunning is really hard, and with very little prep, being told more complex instructions is pretty challenging. But it was just really unfortunate for these players to have to sit through, I guess, the suffering of this end fight, because their end enter wasn't actually that bad. They actually, a sub 40 end enter for somebody who not only doesn't really have speedrunning experience, but also doesn't really do competitive Minecraft like that, is not bad, honestly. Sub 40 end enter is good. But the dragon fight is a little bit more complex. There's a lot going on at once, and that did mean that both players ended up dying quite a bit. Ryan Higa actually ended up dying 8 times, sometimes tactically, and that meant that it took a little bit, but Ryan did end up clutching out the match with a 66-minute dragon kill and finishing the match over Sunny Riots. So that was the winner's bracket, but there's 3 losers matches left, which are BadBoyHalo versus Wolfeei, then we had Jojo Solos versus Abe, we had Ant Venom versus Wiggy X, and then we had Captain Sparkles versus Dandelion Ryans. The matches were shuffled around a bit. I don't remember exactly why, but the second losers bracket match, which was Jojo versus Abe, was played first. I don't remember exactly why, but if we go to Jojo's page, you'll see that she did end up playing Abe, and this was the match in terms of the results. It was expected for Jojo to take this one. Again, Abe got really unlucky with the seeding for this tournament, and yeah, Jojo finishes sub 19. Pretty good, pretty clean run. I think that was her PB as well, if I remember correctly. It's the fastest Jojo has ever beaten the game, at least as of this tournament. I don't know if she didn't get a faster time since, I think, but yeah, That was Jojo PBing in the losers bracket. After that, it was me versus BadBoyHalo, a match that was stacked up in my favor quite heavily. So, what I decided to do was I wanted to play this one a bit slower, because realistically that was possible, and also, again, like mentioned, this match was 6 hours after my other match, almost, pretty much, and I do suffer a bit from fatigue. So I had just been streaming and whatever for so long. I just watched a 66-minute speedrun, or I'll just call it a run, or a walk, and I was tired. I was really tired going to this match, so I wanted to take it a bit more chill. So no real impressive, splits here. My blind to Stronghold enter was actually pretty slow. I don't remember exactly why. I think I just I just approached it very slowly, played it very safely. Then end enter sub 20, it's okay. For my standards, I should be doing it quicker, but considering this was 6.5 hours into my stream, I think it's fine. And then I actually did mess up my explosives for the one cycle, but I did end up one cycling because I think I had 6 or 7, sorry for saying those numbers, explosives on the thing. I think it was 7. 7 explosives on the dragon fight. I misplaced my 7th explosive, which meant I couldn't kill the dragon with my 7th explosive, but I did finish with my stone axe and took the win, 21-38. Decent for this tournament. That's fine. So yeah, we'll take those, which meant also, I should say, from the first match, Abe versus Jojo, Abe was entirely eliminated from the tournament. This is a double elimination bracket, so if you lose 2 matches, no matter what or when or where, you are out. So Abe loses the entire tournament, and then Bad also loses the entire tournament right there. Then it was V5 versus V6, Venom versus Wiggy, which we see right here, which actually was a pretty close match as well. Wookie's Bastion split was slower than Ant's. Ant, of course, entering the Nether in the Bastion a minute behind Wookie, but makes up a lot of time in the Bastion split. Then throughout really everything, actually throughout this entire part of the match, is ahead of Woogie in terms of pace, but I think Ant played a bit faster than he was able to really handle for this tournament, which meant that he did end up dying during the dragon fight, and Woogie took it. I actually don't remember how. I think Woogie. I don't remember if Woogie shot all the crystals down or whatever he did, but yeah, the dragon fight clearly was a bit longer than expected. Maybe this was just a one cycle. I don't know. I don't remember, but Woogie takes it, sub 30, decent. We take those, and Ant Venom is eliminated from the tournament. And then finally, the match I didn't see because I was so tired, was Captain Sparkles versus Dandelion Ryans, which, if we go over here, went as follows. I have no context to this match. This was heavily in Jordan's favor, by the way, because Jordan is just a more experienced speedrunner. Jordan and Ryan both enter the Nether it's a decent pace considering it's a village. Bastion enters is solid. Bastion split is decent as well. Actually, pretty impressive, like a 5.5 minutes roughly. The blind is good. Stronghold is decent. Navigation clearly took 2 minutes. That's totally fine. Maybe they did some crafting, so that's decent. And then I think this means, actually, hold on. Jordan must have hit the one cycle cleanly, because this is like within a minute of entering the end, the dragon dies. Yeah, this is great performance from Jordan, making a clutch comeback after his match against Amy, of course, finishing with a 23-minute time, which is good. That's very nice. Which does mean that Dandelion Ryan is completely eliminated from the tournament. So that leaves. Oh god, I didn't have Twitter open. If I go to the Tubbo Twitter account very quickly, Tubbo. It's probably on here, I think. Is it on here? It might not be, but there are the matches, or the whatever has been announced for today. Oh, here we go. The matches for today, which I'll recap this tomorrow, are as follows. Barry Harry versus Drapu. It's in Drapu's favor, but this could be close. Jumper versus Hannah, in Jumper's favor, but it could be close. Sneak versus JohnA, in JohnA's favor, but it could be close. Aimsy versus Ryan, it's in Aimsy's favor. It's probably not going to be that close. Then Captain Sparkles will face either Sneak or JohnA in his elimination match. Wiggy will face either BadBoyHalo or Drapu in his elimination match. Jojo will face either Jumper or Hannah in her elimination match, and I will face either Aimsy or Ryan Higa in my elimination match. If I had to put predictions on this, it's probably going to end up being Sneak versus Jordan in the elimination. That is in Sneak's favor, but it isn't impossible for Jordan to win that one because Sneak has Minitech as a coach and Jordan has RecRab 2. That's why. Wiggy versus probably BadBoyHalo is very much in BadBoyHalo's favor, I think. So it's likely that BadBoyHalo wins as long as he's heat checked enough that he wouldn't die. That's like the main win con for Wiggy, is that BadBoyHalo dies in a video game. Then Jojo probably goes up against Hannah, but we'll see. Because Jumper did die during the tournament, but so did Hannah, admittedly. So probably Hannah versus Jojo. That's actually pretty close, I think, considering their coaches. So I actually think that's 50-50, possibly, for this event. I actually think that could be pretty close. I would say slightly leaning in Jojo's favor, so I'd say Jojo would take that over Hannah. And then me versus Aimsy or Ryan Higa. I'd probably go up against Ryan Higa. I think I would probably win that one. If I'm being honest, I think I would probably win that one. Which would mean, actually, considering the rest of the bracket, I didn't even notice this. This would, if I had to put my predictions on this, so 21 faces 22, so that would be probably Drapu, JohnA. That is the most interesting match for today, for sure. Then 23 versus 24, I would think my prediction was Jumper versus Aimsy. That is probably Jumper's match to take. 21 versus 22 from losers would be, I said Sneak versus BadBoyHalo. That's actually a really interesting match as well. I do like that one as well. I do think that's going to be pretty interesting. And then it would be Jojo versus me, which I actually think is a pretty interesting match as well. That's pretty close. So I think today we'll have some fun material ahead of us. And yeah, my stream will be a bit later than yesterday because my match isn't until like halfway through the tournament. I will not be giving myself fatigue, especially if I potentially have to go up against Jojo today. So I will not be slacking. I will be Vigoroth. There you go. Nice Pokemon reference. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you're excited. Hope you watch the tournament, of course. It's very fun. And yeah, expect another recap tomorrow. See ya!